Good vibes, positive energy as Aaron Rodgers is out supporting the New York team. And speaking of good vibes, we now are pleased to be joined by our next guest on the show. She's a renowned spiritual healer. Cyndi Dale joins Bonjour Sports Talk. Bonjour, Cyndi. How are you?
Bonjour, I'm great. I do have to admit I'm about 10 minutes back trying to figure out the energy of Tiger Woods' personal life, however.
There's a lot to unpack there as well.
Jump right in.
Tiger's trying to figure that out, I think, too. Yeah, having a tough time. We need some help there.
We love it.
We're not into libel. Aaron Rodgers, though, we can go there because he's all about energy.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, Aaron Rodgers has been very public about, some of the journeys he goes on as he tries to find himself, figure out what is next for him. But what do you make about Aaron Rodgers as he's at this crossroads in his career and all of the different approaches he has taken to find clarity?
So he's talked about centering himself, meditation, dark meditation, deep breathing exercise. We can't forget the ayahuasca. I do energy medicine for a living. So in my bailiwick, that's all perfectly normal. I mean, holistic is kind of hip right now. And talk about Lakers. You were speaking about the Knicks and the Lakers back in the 90s into the early 2010s. Phil Jackson, NBA, was using yoga and visualization and deep breathing. But I think we're going the next level. I think Aaron Rodgers and people like him, Simone Biles, are taking us to the next level where we're really working more with energy healing. I call it subtle energy. There's very interesting science on this topic that we're made of 99.999% subtle energy. It's not the physical stuff. So I love working with athletes and getting them to kind of hip up that subtle energy, the emotions, the feelings, the thoughts, the tuning into what's happening around them. And I actually think that's where athletics is going to go. As soon as people stop kind of being a little nervous about some of the stuff Aaron Rodgers is doing and maybe start mimicking, I think that's the cutting edge of athletics.
I think you're spot on with that assessment there, Cyndi, because I remember when Kyrie Irving went back to play against the Boston Celtics, and he brought out some sage to cleanse the energy in the arena, and he got a lot of heat for it. I think people need to maybe get over some of these social stigmas and embrace this alternative way of thinking. Talk to me a little bit about Kyrie's journey and cleansing the energy with sage, and if that's something you subscribe to.
Well, I do. We're lemongrass. So now we're really in the woo-woo area. But about 30 years ago, when I started on that energy medicine journey, I was down in Peru doing ayahuasca and sage and lemongrass and shamans. And I sat in a tree one time and had them blow smoke on me. I'm not sure that really got rid of my negative energies. But, we're talking about energy. We're just talking about what kind of frequencies, what kind of belief systems we have inside of us, and how can we turn those negative ones into something positive, or at least cancel out the negative. And I didn't get to working with athletes like as an athlete. I mean, do I really look all that athletic? I can climb a mountain, but I much prefer the other side where I'm drinking a beer. Okay. But I just started with energy healing forever ago, 30 years ago, sort of because I'm dragged into it, working on my own issues. And I was able to study with different shamans around the world. And I wrote a ton of books. And my youngest kid, I'm a mom in the bleachers. All right, 30 years of being a mom in the bleachers. My youngest son wants to become a really big time baseball player. So I got him some coaching when he was in high school, and I'm sitting there in a freezing cold, really, really cold facility. He's got two coaches working with him. One was a pro. And all of a sudden I'm sitting there going, how come they're not working on his left arm? He's a right-hand pitcher. And I'm going, his left arm isn't working. And so I finally stand up and say to the guys, his left arm's not working. My son's eyes are like saucers. He's going, Mom, don't embarrass me. You do weird things for a living. And the coaches are like, he's a right-hand pitcher. It doesn't matter. It's like, yeah, it sort of matters if the left arm's not working. Within 5 minutes, I had it going because I finally figured out, if an athlete's really going to really get there and figure out what's going on inside so they can do what they want to do outside, maybe they could use some of these techniques, and get rid of the blocks. We call them energy blocks in my world. Get rid of those blocks so they can really put themselves out there. It was a pretty cool experience. And since then, I've really been enjoying working with kids, amateurs, and I'm on the edge. So I think if people really want, to go to the frontier of their own career, it certainly doesn't hurt to go to the edge of energy medicine either.
It's funny you say all this stuff about energy. I think a lot of players they replace the word energy with superstition, and it's the kind of the same type of thing. And a lot of players are superstitious. You see guys walking into stadiums with their headphones on. They're trying to get their mind in the right place. I think you're on to something really big, because there's a lot of people that don't want to use the word energy, don't want to go into this kind of like weird, nebulous kind of comment that doesn't really kind of jive with what most society does, but that's exactly where most players are. And so when you're talking about energy and you're talking about energy blocks, like how could a normal person, not just an athlete, deal with energy blocks, and what is an energy block?
So that's a great question. I mean, an energy block can be an injury. It's not just weird, superstitious, invisible stuff either. It can be an injury, but a lot of times it's a belief. A lot of times it's an emotion that we haven't dealt with. Sometimes it's inherited patterns from our parents or our ancestors. I worked with another baseball pitcher one time who was probably sitting in that moment at about 90 miles an hour, which is pretty good. And I had this sense, we use that word a lot in the energy field, but we're just picking up on that subtle energy. It's statistically a real energy. Albert Einstein said it, decades ago. Everything's energy. It's fields of light and sound. We're interconnected. We just can't measure most of it. So we have to sense it or feel it. And I got him up to 94 in about 2 minutes. I hope he stayed at 94, but I got him up to 94 in about 2 minutes, because it's sort of like, hey, you're holding some of that doubt from your mom, who doesn't really want you to be a pitcher. She wants you to be a banker. So, we're just full of thoughts and feelings that we've picked up along the way. I went through family systems therapy as a client long time ago. And I remember back then my therapist saying, shame gets passed down. What your parents don't deal with, you end up with. So we're not really talking about anything that different than that, but being able to internally sense, where do you have a discomfort, an emotion that doesn't feel right, a fear, like a heavy place inside of your body. You have to learn how to go deeper with that, maybe go into a brain wave. We've got some really cool brain waves we can learn how to access, that healers around the world access. It's not very difficult with deep breathing, to get into that place of saying, what, I don't want to get stuck with that anymore. I want to cancel out how everybody wants me to lose and accentuate the energy of the people who want me to win. So these are the kind of things we can do in everyday life too. I mean, we can walk through the mall, for God's sake and for goodness sake, and, just pick up on, what's going on with other people. So when you're in the ring, when you're in the field, when you're, kind of just doing what you do as an athlete, training or standing in front of people, think about how many cross feelings are coming at you. It's like Simone Biles, was like, I can't go out there with this emotional stuff. She cleared it, and then she can perform again. So I think we're talking about just learning how to do the internal work to show up externally.
Absolutely. Just keeping it calm, keeping it centered, and, working on yourself, keeping your own side of the street clean. Cyndi, for our viewers out there who are interested in it, where can they find your work? Let us know where we can keep up with all of your latest.
Super easy, CyndiDale.com, spelled odd, C-Y-N-D-I, Dale.com.
Amazing. Cyndi Dale, thank you so much for taking the time with us this morning. Really great insight. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cyndi Dale, spiritual healer, great insight there as well. And I think she's got some great points. It's like sometimes you just have to kind of keep your own energy centered before you bring it out into the world.
Knicks had an energy block for years. Couldn't find a point guard. Jalen Brunson comes to town. Energy is clear. Nothing but blue and orange skies, right?
Yeah.
I believe in that. A lot of energy stuff with athletes, trying to find an edge, getting that mental space.
Yeah, everybody's pretty much the same in terms of athletic ability. Once you get to a higher level, it's the mental edge and how mentally you can deal with all the outside pressure. So a lot of this stuff that Cyndi was talking about is right on, smack on. I just think people have trouble dealing with the terminology of it, but it really is.
It's just because it's different and
Yeah.
it's new, and sometimes people see something that's different and it's foreign and they immediately question it or mock it, or sometimes people are like, oh, let me just make this my whole thing, and it's like, okay, or you could just let me know what it is. But she's got some great ideas, great perspective there. You know what, just let's throw on some binaural beats and just clear all that energy out there. We've got
Binaural beats.
Oh yeah, we'll unpack that in the commercial break. We've got so much more to get into on Bonjour Sports Talk live on Prime Video. Stay with us. We'll be back after this.